Welcome back to the Balas and Skene show. This is going to be the post-Illinois edition. I'm Chris Balas. With me, Doug Skene, Michigan's former five-time Big Ten champion, former All Big Ten standout at Michigan. And somebody told me that Bill Parcells, said that you were his favorite player of all time. Is that true?
Yeah,
In
no,
New
that's
England?
that is yeah, that is not the
Okay,
case.
I
I
might
can
have
tell you
made
that.
that up, but you know what?
That
You
may
are.
be Ken Purcell's favorite player of all time from Allen High School, but not
Oh,
Bill Purcell's
oh,
favorite player.
see, yeah, see, there's the
Yeah,
technicality
there's a
there.
little
So.
bit of a difference between Allen High School and the NFL Hall of Famer.
But they're
Yes,
both great coaches, at their own levels. So,
agreed, agreed.
yeah.
I learned a lot
So,
from both of them. Yep.
yeah. Tell you what, long drive home from Champaign. Champaign sucks anyway, but when you're driving home after a loss, it's even worse. With all due respect to the great people of Champaign, the Illinois fans that hate Michigan. It's funny. They had the Muck Michigan shirts on when we got down there. We had a middle-aged guy with his shirt that said Ann Arbor is a whore. And I'm like, come on, man, you're a little old for that. But, they hate Michigan down there, and they rush the field. They won't be the last ones. Indiana is preparing their celebration right now. That's a well coached football team, but Michigan falls to 4-3 with an awful loss in Champaign. I got to tell you, Skeen, we both predicted a loss. You and I won staff picks this week. We were Yeah, so yay for that. We were both hoping to be wrong, um, but I got to tell you, man, it's one thing when we didn't think this was going to be a playoff team this year, but we expected them to be better than they are. And we did not expect them to be abysmal. This is really literally one of the worst offensive football teams in college football, literally. And that's not
Hmm.
acceptable at a place like Michigan. A lot of it starts up front. Now, number one problem is the quarterback. They don't have one. I thought
Hmm.
Jack Tuttle would be better. We saw signs against Washington that, okay, maybe he's competent. But two things about that. Number one, he was sacked 5 times and pressured a ton more. So you're never
Hmm.
going to be very good if you're not comfortable back there. I'll go back to Devin Gardner when he was here and the shit that he had to endure. And this was not that far off of that. And he was taking a beating in there. That offensive line just isn't where it needs to be. And they had Jeff Persi at left tackle. They had Andrew Gentry at right tackle. I thought he played better than Evan Link. You didn't necessarily think so, though.
Well, so let's start on the right side. So I
Yep.
went back and watched the game again today, and I just watched the offense. Um, I thought that Crippen and Gentry's first 3 or 4 series were good, and I was just sort of keeping a mental track on positive or negative for each play. Now, granted, those series weren't long. We were punting pretty fast. The first one I
Yep.
think was a 3 and out, but initially, they had a good start. I think both of them had a good start in there, and the offensive line was okay. But Gentry specifically on the right side was all right. As the game wore on, and in the second half, I was trying to find the differences between Gentry and Link. And I think if you just compared offensive pass pro reps over Link's first 4 games, 3 games to Gentry, I think, yeah, Gentry probably overall a little bit better. But for me, it wasn't head and shoulders awesome better. It was somewhat better. There was a play. I think if you go back and you watch the film on the Tuttle first fumble, pressure came from the right side. I think you'll see that. And then later in the game, there was a sack on Tuttle that came from the right side, and the last person to touch that defender was Colson Loveland, who was maybe in for some sort of max protection, but the defender's lined up on Loveland's inside eye, and what looked like to be outside uh, of the tackle. But for some reason, the right tackle moved down inside to check some sort of blitz and help his guard. And Loveland had the flash of color to his inside. Loveland tries putting his hands on him, and Gentry just kind of put a left arm help out there to his guard. And it's like, was that a missed assignment? Was that? They can't. You cannot tell me that Colson Loveland was designed to pass pro that defender from an outside in position. That's just no way. So I think that somebody went mistake there. And so I think overall, Ballas, you're probably correct. I think you mentioned the grade that the Gentry was given on one of the websites was pretty good, and that may be the case. But for me, rep versus rep, I didn't see it, and then that bleeds
Excuse me.
into hey, Gesundheit.
I'm
That
allergic to good stuff from you. So go ahead, continue.
well, it bleeds into some overall concerns I have for what I saw when I just watched the offensive line play. And what I mean by that is there's two things in the Illinois game that stood out to me as I rewatched it. Number one, I see a lot of what I consider like positional blocking, kind of like blocking out in a basketball court, getting in the way and just sort of being good enough with that, happy with that, as opposed to trying to manhandle people and move people. So I'm never a fan of that. I want guys trying to move people and impose your will on things. The second thing is when you're an offensive lineman and you're in a help position, you're uncovered and you've got to go inside with a left arm post and you're checking blitz. You've got a responsibility in about a second and a half to check things there. It doesn't matter whether you're left or right. You're uncovered. You're helping one of your line mates and you're checking for blitzes. If no blitz comes, then you're free to help. And what I don't know is what's being coached in those moments. I don't know what Grant's coaching those guys, but here's what I see. I see guys just kind of having a hand on things and just kind of doing the look around and not really doing much other than check, 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 check. Nothing ever comes. Why not? I don't know, Balas. Ear hold the shit out of somebody in there who's trying to kill your quarterback when you got a chance to go do so. Well, it's hard to do that when you're out of position and you're not in the right spot to go do that to somebody. So there's a kind of a shortcoming right there. And I just don't see an offensive line that plays with aggression. I see guys playing assignment football and super focused on their feet and technique, and I just don't see anybody whipping anybody's ass. And so it kind of stuck out to me. And then the last couple points, and I know I'm going along here, but we struggled again to pick up some simple twists. We got some guys, looping around, and we don't see the flash of color. We're not passing things off. And part of that's because we're out of position to do so. And then the last thing, and the one thing that probably bugged me the most, is when something terrible what was going on out there. We're struggling in pass protection. Your poor quarterback's getting his ass kicked. The guy or guys that allowed that to happen, I see the shoulders down, I see their head down, and they're just sort of walking back slowly, looking at their quarterback laying on the ground. And they're not helping him up. They just sort of stare at him and turn around and go back to the huddle. It's like, dude, where's the urgency here, man? Come on, you guys are better than this.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know what Grant is coaching or not coaching, but it doesn't take coaching or special talent to care about your quarterback laying on the ground just getting smashed. You ought to try a little harder and show that you care and get him up. You apologize to the quarterback and you say this isn't going to happen again, and you get a little pissed off about it. So yeah, I'm a little pissed off about it here on Sunday night as you and I talk about this, because it doesn't take any special talent to be better than that.
Yeah, thank you for joining us here on the Doug Skene Show. I do want to say, I do want to say, this sounds like some of the things that you were talking about back when Brandon Peters was getting his butt kicked at Wisconsin, and some of those line problems. And it's been a while since we've had this conversation. One thing I do want
Yes.
to ask you though is that when you talk about the blocking out and stuff like that, how is that much different than what we've seen the last 3 years? Because the responsibilities and offenses obviously have changed. I remember when Coach Hanlon was here and you guys were firing off the ball and just trying to bury people,
What
right?
do you, what do you mean by blocking out? You mean the boxing out
Right, the
part?
boxing out thing, right, when
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
like
So what I mean, let me try to describe it
yep,
a different way.
yeah,
So if and you can go back and you can watch any of the games. So you got, let's say, the center or the guard. We do a lot of counter stuff. We'll pull people to one side. You're blocking down, let's
right,
say, on the left side, and someone from the right is going to the left to kick the end of line or whatever. Well, a lot of times what I see is the down block to the backside is just sort of get on him and just sort of
right,
stop and just sort of wall him off.
right, and I know what you meant, but how is that different from the last 3 years? Because we saw a lot of that last year too, where guys
Well,
just were
here's
aggressive
the
with it?
difference.
Okay,
Here's the difference, and
yep,
and I'll talk about Zinter and I'll talk about Trevor Keegan.
yep,
Those guys would do that, but you'd see those dudes trying to run guys off, trying to run
right,
them in the ground, trying to
yep,
impose their will and make a mental impact on that block instead of just being okay with the wall off and
right,
okay with the box out.
yep,
And maybe it's because of the inexperience of some of these guys. I don't know, Ballas, but at this point in the season, enough has gone on, enough has transpired. The game wasn't going well for the offense. So where's the piss and vinegar
I get it,
with being a little more than satisfied with just walling someone off?
yeah,
It's not going to do any harm to the offense by blocking back to a 3 technique or a 2 technique or a backside linebacker, and instead of just walling him off, put your hands on him and drive his ass all the way over to the sideline and put him on his back.
Right.
What's wrong with that? I
Right.
don't know.
Right. I get it. I get it. Understood. The biggest concern that I had, obviously, on Saturday night was left tackle. It seemed like every time, and Jeff Persi, God love him. They missed Miles Hinton. One thing that bothered me, I saw Miles Hinton out there jumping around, looking okay and dressed and everything, looked like he was ready to go, and then he doesn't play. Okay, and then you're like, okay, you're going to have another starting combination that we haven't seen yet this year with Percy at the left, and you've got Andrew Gentry at the right. So let's try something different. And I thought the right side, I thought there was less pressure, as you and I discussed. Left side, it was just he was running for his life, and that kid was just beating Percy on the edge constantly. So that's just not good enough. So and that's where all the troubles start with this offense. Frankly, they ran the ball okay when Kalel Mullings was in there. We will talk about that in a second. They need to start with that, finish with that, and really build the offense around that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But left tackle play just wasn't good enough. What'd you see from him? What'd you see from the offensive guards?
Well, so at times, so let's start in the guards, and I would say overall, yes, the right side played slightly better than the left. But let's keep that in perspective
Hmm.
for the way the overall offense performed. Yeah, I think we had a decent amount of rushing yards, and I won't even compare how many passing yards we have because we're still among the worst offenses in all of football in
Yeah.
passing. But we had a couple failures on the right side with the tackle and twist that we couldn't pick up, and part of that's Crippen, but that was definitely Al Hadi.
Yep.
And then at times, I think Al Hadi's a little high, and he's not square in his combos with his down blocks when he is the front side of a play. So yeah, okay, they're a little bit better on the right than they are on the left. But I wouldn't say they're locked down kicking ass over there on the right by any
Mhm.
stretch. And then, yeah, it was a little painful to watch later in the game when our left tackle there, the kid's trying hard, but the pass set was a little tall, a little elongated. We're kind of catching. We're not sinking our hips. We're not popping and moving our feet. We're losing position. We have a soft outside hip. We're turning our feet around. Our hips are swinging to the sideline and opening that edge to go get the quarterback. And it wasn't any kind of dynamic pass rush over there. It was just one on one.
Yeah.
And so now we know why Hinton is the starter and Percy was the backup. I mean, that's just the reality. And it doesn't mean that Jeff Percy can't get better. He has to get better if Hinton's going to continue to be out because they're going to feast on that Balas, just like any defensive line will. When they see a weakness, they're going to expose it until you stop it, and more than just once. And so it was a difficulty. I was sitting there watching the game with some friends and family. By the way, my daughter got married this weekend, so
Congratulations,
thank you. We were
lady.
watching the game a Saturday afternoon. There, we had a little party, and the wedding was Friday. So
It's great.
with
Yeah, I
friends
missed
and
I
family.
missed the invite, but that's okay. Continue. You must have known I was
Yeah,
going to be out of town or something. Yeah.
yeah, you were gonna. I knew you were gonna be at Illinois,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm just sitting there. Anyway, there's like 15, 20 people watching this game with me, and I'm trying to focus. And in a couple people, my daughter's new father-in-law, Ken. Ken kind of looks at me and goes, "What's going on with the left tackle there?"
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I'm
It's-
like, Ken, what you're seeing right here is just not good enough. I'm sorry to tell you this.
Oh
Yeah,
man. That's tough, and I feel bad for the kid. But he's been around for a long time, and
yeah.
Grant Newsom's a great guy. I love him. Did a nice job as tight
Well,
ends
listen,
coach here. But you know what? He's 27 years old too, and
he's
boy, there are
he's got
some.
to find a way. So, but here's my beef, Ballas. Right. So your left tackle's struggling. He's
Mhm.
having a hard time blocking this. All right. He's not
Yeah.
having a good day. How about move a tight end over there and do a
Right.
little chip before he releases? How
Right.
about you run it back over there to chip the guy to
Right.
slow the dude down somehow? Did we see any of that? No.
No.
Right?
Yep.
Try to slide protect. Do something
Anything.
to
Yeah.
help the guy. But no, let's just leave him on an island out there to
Yeah.
continue to struggle.
Yep.
That part bothers me, and that's not Percy's fault. That's on the coaches for making an adjustment. And it's not
Yep.
like you have to redirect the whole entire offense.
No.
Just put your back on a little chip before he releases. We got a
Right.
back that goes out. Just how many times did Tuttle check down to the bailout route out of the backfield there, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no one else open. So
Yep.
he looks over in his little toss route. Well, that little toss guy can throw a shoulder before he
Yep.
leaks out into the flat.
Yeah, before he leaks out into the flat and Tuttle one hops it to him. So he had a rough day. I don't mean to be mean, but boy, you know what? You were hoping this is a guy that they went into the summer with, thinking, okay, this is probably going to be our guy, right? If he's healthy, and you can see why after watching Alex Orji play and Davis Warren, who I thought, other than all the picks, started throwing the ball a little bit better. And you have to wonder, do they go back to Davis
Okay.
Warren?
Well, I
Yeah,
was just about to say, Ballas. All
yeah.
right. And since from what we've seen of Tuttle, what's the difference between him and Warren at this point?
Yeah. Well, I thought Warren looked better at times, frankly. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I know Alex Orgy and everybody's like, we need to go back to Orgy. And I'm like, I don't understand what people are seeing from him to believe that anything that he does is worthy of playing quarterback. He just
Yeah.
doesn't see the field, and so on and so forth. So, maybe some packages for him, but I think they'll probably stick with Tuttle and maybe give him a shorter leash. But you have to be able to have somebody who can at least throw the ball a little bit,
And
and
have
prefer
protection.
right, and preferably to the right team. So, but Tuttle didn't look like it. He looked like he was really struggling, and again, part of it looked like he was skittish back there because he wasn't getting that protection. But man, you need better quarterback play than that if you're going to win in this league.
Well, let's talk about when there was protection, because
Yeah,
at times there absolutely
yeah,
was.
yep,
The ball was low and behind. The ball was 2 yards short. The ball was not catchable. There was some simple throws that were made not simple. They were made complicated, and then obvious the ones
yeah.
that to right to the defender because he didn't see the dude standing there. I never played quarterback, Ballas. I know it's not an easy position, but it's fair to say after watching that game that the simple throws that were available were not made.
No, and there were
And
times that we were counting, like you tell us to, 1, 2, ball out. There were times 3, 4 seconds that he
yep,
was, you know what? And there was
yep,
one on a three-man rush where Crippen's holding his own. He's getting the guys pushing a little bit, and Tuttle doesn't help him out. He just stands there while the guy's coming at him. He doesn't move around at all, and the guy gets a sack on a three-man rush. And I'm thinking, you got to be able to feel that a little better, and move
yeah.
around and help these guys out. So it just none of it's working right now, and it's really disappointing. And really, the only thing that is working, Skene, and why, for the life of me, again, I don't understand why Kalel Mullings isn't getting the first carries earlier in that game, the second carries. I don't understand why he's not getting 25 to 30 carries a game. And I said this: if you go back and look at the Michigan teams that had a bell cow running back, the Mike Harts, the Chris Perrys, the Hassan Haskins, when he's working it, if you can get to second and five, third and two, you're going to make things a lot easier on your quarterback because you're going to keep them guessing a little bit. And we saw that on their scoring drive when they started running a little play action to the tight ends and things like that because they were running the ball so well with Kalel Mullings. All due respect to Donovan Edwards, who I love, and I love what he has contributed to this program and to Michigan becoming a champion again. His role is not a bell cow running back, and Kalel Mullings is the guy that's going to help you win football games. Am I wrong here, or am I missing something? Because
No, I think that's pretty safe to say that,
yeah,
Ballas. And I'm trying to think of the reasons, right? I'm trying to be the
right,
devil's advocate here. Is why haven't we not seen this? Is it a workload thing? Maybe they don't have the capacity or feel comfortable enough to give Coel that many carries per game. He may not
right,
last. And it's not unusual to say that because in a lot of college and certainly in the NFL, look at the Lions, right? You can't
right.
have Montgomery right every down.
No,
You want a little curveball, and I think Edwards is supposed to be that curveball, but it seems like you could do some other things offensively to help him be more of a curveball
right,
rather than run the same exact plays,
right,
just switching out the running back.
right.
Do something to help him get where he needs to be a little bit better. So, but I agree. There's a different running style with Mullings with that football in his hand versus Edwards, and I think it's fair to say that yards after contact certainly favors Mullings.
Yeah,
And so we talked about this 3 or 4 weeks ago that I think Mullings has earned the spot to be the feature guy, but find a way to use Donovan's athleticism and his gifts from God to go out there and make things happen. But again, that goes back to the offensive coaching staff and finding ways to do that, and we haven't seen a lot. We did see Donovan come out of the backfield and split out a couple times,
hmm
but I think it needs to be a little bit more than just that.
I agree. And they've got to do some more things to get those guys on the field together at the same time. I think Donovan would be a good third down back in terms of third and longs and things like that out of the backfield. We haven't seen them throw a whole lot to him, sadly. and frankly, he could probably be the number 2 or number 3 receiver at this point, given
Yeah,
what
how
those
many I
guys.
don't even know. Do you know off the top of your head what kind of attempts and receptions that Donovan has this year? I don't
No,
even
I
know.
don't. I'll check it out, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
Given his skill set. So he had 208 yards passing, 129 of them in the fourth quarter when they're sitting back 30 yards in prevent, and letting these guys can complete stuff to
40
win the game.
47 of those yards were on the last possession when when
Right,
Illinois was
right.
waiting for their chicken sandwich after the
Right,
game.
100%.
Yep.
They're like, "All right, well, they're gonna rush the field because that's what you do when you beat an average Michigan team now. It doesn't matter that, Washington, for example, is gonna finish with a losing record. They rush the field. I told you Indiana's gonna do it in a few weeks. We know that's
Mhm.
coming. I'll tell you what, Indiana's a well-coached football team, but you know who else is
Mhm.
a well-coached football team is Michigan State. They
Mhm.
are getting better. They struggled at times, obviously, with the elite teams, but I think Michigan's a 7-point favorite right now. This is the exact kind of Michigan team that Michigan State teams beat, right? They
Mhm.
are going to be hungry.
Mhm.
They are getting better. To put 32 points up on Iowa at home or wherever and move the ball like they did is impressive. That's a good defensive football team, a good fundamental defensive football team. They were missing some guys, but Aiden Childs at quarterback is getting better.
Mhm.
I think I'll be honest. I'll say it right now. I'm gonna predict a Michigan State win in this game, and
Mhm. Me
because
too. Me
yeah, and I
too.
and I think that the want to that I didn't see, and I don't say this lightly, but the body language. You and I talked about this after the game and during the game. Uh, there are a lot of guys there, a couple guys that made plays defensively, even that came off the field, and they're just jogging over. They made great plays. Guys are trying to celebrate with them, and they're just running by them. Like you know what, whatever. I did my job. Give me some water, things like that. There's something missing, and Colston Loveland mentioned it too. He said it's like we got a bunch of guys doing one thing. We need all 11 guys doing the same thing, and he talked about chemistry. Something's missing here. I've seen enough Michigan football to realize when something's missing. I'm guessing that you have too. Am I off here, or am I
No, no, no.
incorrect?
You're describing what I sort of described earlier
Yeah.
as the special sauce that all the great teams have of when things go great, you see 9 out of 11 dudes celebrating together.
Hmm.
Everybody's happy, fired up. And then when they get to the sideline, you see an engaged sideline who's all on their tiptoes and they're excited too. And then when things don't go well, they're helping each other up. They're patting each other on the back. They're looking each other in the eye and saying, "It's all right. We got the next one," right? There's an energy out there. And I think that's maybe what Loveland was trying to describe. It's what I
Yeah.
was trying to describe earlier when an offensive lineman just sort of staring at his running or quarterback laying on the ground and like, oh boy, and just shitty body language everywhere. And this is the danger of what we talked about coming into this game against Illinois. It gets hotter and hotter danger wise going forward to Michigan State and then beyond. When you look at this, and what this is called is one way of describing it as a team that's just checking out
Yeah.
and just going through the motions to run out the season. And then
Yeah.
the guys that are obviously destined for the NFL are going to go do their NFL thing, and they'll probably be great players, and that's wonderful. But this is what a team checking out looks like. I'm not saying Michigan has checked out. I'm not saying that. But these little indicators, and all of a sudden someone says something, well, something's missing. And then when you start talking about, well, we're going to keep playing hard and we're playing for pride. And now you're talking about that kind of descriptive, uh, adjectives to go down the list for your football team. It means shit. We got to keep these guys from checking out,
Yeah.
and because the playoffs are out, this is
Yep.
not a playoff team.
Nope.
And so how does Sharon and his staff keep these guys fired up to go out there and play for each
I
other?
don't know.
Because I didn't see that a lot, especially offensively,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
Um, it's got to be fixed, or this will get ugly, Balance.
Yeah. It's already kind of ugly. He scored 7 points at Illinois. That's not a
Yeah.
juggernaut
Let me
football team.
clarify. The
Uglier.
offense, Michigan's offense is officially terrible.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
they're
Yep.
terrible.
100%.
But what I mean by ugly is the losses are going to rack up against some emotional teams. And you, Mark, talked about Michigan State. You and I talked about this back in the summertime. I said, I think this is a good football coach. And I think they're going to surprise
Hmm.
some people this year. Well,
Yep.
here we are. I watched enough of the Iowa game. That Michigan State defensive front and what the energy they were playing with
Hmm.
and the guys they got in that defensive line, they will have no problems giving this offensive line problems.
Yeah. Yep.
And so this will be a great challenge. And I'm with you.
Yep.
Sadly, I'm going to probably pick Michigan to lose this game because of
Yep.
what I see on football. I'd take away the uniforms,
Yeah.
just watch the football. You
Yep.
can't tell me that right now Michigan is going to beat Michigan State.
No.
I don't
No.
believe it.
No, if Michigan State protects the ball, I think they win the game. So it's going to be interesting to see. My buddy calls it a manhood game, right? This is where, okay,
Yeah.
what are you really made of? And I'm not seeing enough of that in these guys to think, okay, they're going to have enough pride out there to go out and match the
Well,
intensity. Number one, because you're always going to get it from these guys. They hate you.
yep.
They hate you like nobody else hates you, right? So that's my concern. I do want to credit the defense, the positions that they were put in, and
Hmm.
for them to, they gave up 21 points. There were a couple bad plays. I think they gave up 47 yards in the second half, and that weren't 36 yards on the fake punt, which was ridiculous. Everybody was calling for it. We saw the alignment, and we're thinking, our buddy Craig Wada said the same thing. He said, "I've been saying it all year. You know, there's something. They are begging for this." And
Hmm.
good experienced special teams coaches. Jay Harbaugh comes to mind. You know, that didn't happen against Michigan. But I
Hmm.
saw it and I saw how they were lined up and I said, watch the fake. That was, you know, and I say it all the time anyway, so I'm not going to give myself any credit. I say it when they're backed up to their own two, like Dan Campbell's out there coaching or something, you know. But and I don't know if you saw that today, by the way. The first drive, he fakes a punt from his own 30 something and leads to a touchdown the
I
other
admit,
way.
no, I didn't. I didn't see that. I was
Okay,
in the car. I was in the car today, but
but what a win for the Lions. But regardless, I said watch the fake, and this time I meant it. And there it goes. But that defense, they played hard. They continued to play, even when they were the crappy punts to midfield. We'll talk about that in a minute too. What the hell happened to Tommy Doman? But give them credit, right, for continuing to get after it.
well, so the kind of energy that we saw Michigan's defense play against USC, and now we're realizing USC
Hmm.
is not very good either. But
Wow.
take that aside. Let's just set that aside. The enthusiasm in which Michigan played in that game against the Trojans is the kind of thing we're going to have to see against Michigan State to have a chance in this football game to beat them. It's going to be required
Isn't that
because,
crazy? Isn't that crazy that we're saying this about this football team?
well, it kind of isn't for me when you look down the certainly the passing stats and you look offensively. You know,
I
you
just mean
just got
before
to.
the season. Before the
Oh, before
season.
the season,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That was I had a 9-3,
Yeah.
8-4. I'm thinking,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you might squeak into the playoff. We just got to have
Yeah.
a few things happen.
Yep.
And now we're talking about a team that may be looking for their chicken sandwich to stick a fork in this season
Right.
because of the things we're seeing on the field on Saturday
Yep.
with a lack of enthusiasm and some body language that indicates you don't care what's going on out here.
Yeah.
And again, just my opinion. I'm
Yep.
telling you, I've watched enough football, been there, seen that, done that, lived it. It's a bad indicator. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it is crazy that we're having this discussion. And this is what I meant. The day it can get worse,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you can lose a tight football game and get beat by someone who made an incredible play. That happens. You
Yes.
can also get your nose rubbed in it and not care and get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in the last 10 years of Michigan football.
We saw it on
There was
we saw it on Saturday, in my opinion, with that offense. They were what they did, and 7 points, buddy. 7 points
7 points.
is not acceptable. So, but again, the
Yeah,
defense did some good things. Mason Graham continues to play his ass off in there. That guy
yeah.
is what a waste of his year. I hate to say it, man, but that defensive front. And I asked Sharon Moore after the game. I said, "You're a guy that said you have high expectations for this program." And I didn't want to be mean, and I was trying to think of how to phrase the question. Is what we're seeing on the field, should it be better than it is? And he said, absolutely. He said, I take responsibility. After the bye week, what could I have done differently? And he said, it's on me to fix it, and I will. I wish I could believe that. I just don't see it this year, maybe down the road, but there are some things that need to be fixed that I don't know that this staff can fix. So
Well,
we'll,
I totally forgot Ballas, and
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it. They had a bye week. This is how
Yeah.
they performed coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
I
It's
forgot about
ridiculous.
that.
Right.
So this is that's a coaching failure, and Sharon said so, right? And
Yep.
basically, that's he didn't use the F word there, but it's a
Yeah.
coaching failure, and he says he's going to get it fixed. Okay, then there's a pretty big game for Michigan football coming up this Saturday.
Yeah.
Then it's got if we see the same kind of indicators against Michigan State that we just saw against Illinois, now the real danger of checking the box and looking for the chicken sandwich and writing off this season is present.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're there yet,
Yep.
but we saw some notes of it. And you can
Yep.
look at the statistics offensively, and they are bad in a lot of categories, among
Yep.
the worst in America. because that has nothing to do with how hard you're trying. And
Yep.
if you see a team quit, then it will get flat out ugly.
Yep, and we've seen that at Michigan too, unfortunately. I said in my column, I said it used to be on the beat. That's not Michigan football, right? If you saw some things like we saw on Saturday, now it's that looks like Brady Hoke Michigan football, or that looks like Rich Rodriguez Michigan football because we lived it. We've seen
Or
this
it was 2020 COVID Jim Harbaugh Michigan
2020 COVID,
football
yeah, right.
where they
Which
quit.
they did, and that culture was off, and that whole season, that's an asterisk season, but there's still no
Hmm.
excuse for not playing hard and busting your butt. That was bad culture. So, but the culture that was there the last 3 years, and maybe I'm off here, but is not prevalent there. It's not there anymore, and
Hmm.
they've got to figure out a way to fix it, or they're going to get their asses kicked on Saturday,
Hmm.
flat out.
Yeah,
So,
and the one after that,
and
and
the
the
one
one
after
after
that.
that.
Exactly. Oh my God, Indiana. I'll tell you, Kurt Signetti. I made fun of this guy and he's still kind of a clown. Look at me, I win. Google me, I win. Send in the car. The guy from Die Hard. Send in the
They
car.
should
Send
put
in
they
the
should put
car.
on the helmet instead of row the boat from
Yes.
Minnesota,
Google
just
me,
that
I
I
win.
win.
Yeah.
Look at me,
Google
I
me.
win.
No, Google me, I win. It's better. Yeah. So, but
Google me.
but damn it. Would you take that right now? That guy, what they are doing out there, and that just goes to show you from last, they were garbage last year, and I understand their schedule's not very good. They just put up 56 points on Nebraska. They beat the living shit out of Nebraska 56-7. They have
In
pounded
Dallas,
every team that they've played, buddy.
they're playing enthusiastic football. And here's a news flash:
Yeah.
Indiana is not exactly the NIL destination for all
No.
the best talent in college
Right.
football.
Right. And but they have a quarterback, Michigan. Oh, we don't need a quarterback, and hopefully this will open some eyes too in terms of what you need as a program and what you need for support from your athletic department, because they have not gotten that flat out. I will say it again, and I don't give a damn who criticizes me for it. They were not prepared for this, and you're seeing the results of this. And I understand that they were marching towards a championship, but that doesn't mean the bottom has to fall out in your program. I expected this maybe next year, that we were going to see some growing pains, but I still expected a team that would play their ass off and be well coached. Hoped that they would be well coached. This is none of that, and for it to go from that to this in 1 year, to me, is unacceptable.
So this is rock bottom, right? This Illinois
No,
game.
next
No, no,
next
no,
week
no.
would be, yeah,
For no, for so far from what
yes,
we've seen
yes,
through 7 games, this Saturday's Illinois game has been rock bottom. It can go lower,
yeah.
but we're at the low point, and now we're going to find out what the dudes who wear this uniform are all about.
And that's what worries me, because I have a bad feeling here. We look at the leaders in that room; they better get these guys together. But it is hard to manufacture fake chemistry. I don't know how you do it. I really don't know how you get these guys together and on the same page, especially when you have 3 losses, based on what we've seen basically from the beginning of the year, when it never seemed like everything was. It seemed like things were different. So
Well,
we'll
so
see.
you mentioned Bill Parcells early in this podcast in kind of a joking way, a big
Yep.
joking way. But
Yep.
one of the things I remember him saying to us as a football team in New England, the short time I was there, um, as a motivator, and it wasn't yelling, it wasn't
Mhm.
screaming. He would just look at us and say, "How long are you going to put up with this?"
Yeah.
And he just kind of walk out of the room. That
Yeah.
was it.
Yep.
And this is one of those weeks for Michigan
Yep.
football. How
Yep.
long are you going to put up with this?
Yep. Well, they better not put up with it anymore, or they're going to get beat on Saturday, and that would be
Hmm.
then any goodwill that you have. And I'll say this: everything that Sharon Moore contributed to these championship teams and getting Michigan back on track, he should be thanked for. And he has a huge role in that, no matter what happens during his tenure. But if he wants to lose any goodwill as a head coach, and we're getting
Lose to
close.
Sparty.
Lose to Sparty, it's going to get ugly. So we'll talk about that after the game on Saturday. We'll get your staff pick. I can't wait for that. Congratulations, co-champion. I will get you your balls that say staff picks champion, your titleists. Uh, there's a missing E. It's like titleist, but
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
order them from China, for $1 a dozen. We,
Knockoff. Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks for the
well,
knockoff Titleist,
I didn't
Dallas.
say knockoff. I said I ordered them from China. You take what you can get. So he's Doug Skene. Skene, I appreciate it. Congratulations to your daughter. Tell her I said that. My gift is in the mail, even though I wasn't invited. So
I'll
and
tell
it's
her. I'll
and
tell her
it's
that you're
and,
upset that she didn't invite you.
it's better than Titleist golf balls. So, but thanks again. We will talk to you next week.
All right, Dallas. Go blue.